There are 3 great reasons to stretch your quilt blocks and start working with rectangles instead of the traditional square quilt blocks. Hi, I'm Andy, and this is True Blue Quilts, a place to enjoy, experiment, and excel as you quilt. Today we're talking about stretched quilt blocks, the 6x9 rectangles that I am using in the Little Bit Different Block of the Month program. And you may be wondering, why stretch your quilt blocks? So I want to tell you about 3 good reasons to experiment with this Little Bit Different Block of the Month program. Number 1, be different. We all like to see something that we haven't seen before. Those little things catch our eye that are out of the ordinary and make us take a second look. And this is your chance to do that. Most quilters work with square quilt blocks. So when you see a quilt that is built around rectangles, you're going to stop and wonder, hey, how did they do that? Let me look closer and figure out the construction of these new and unusual quilt blocks. The second thing that you realize when you start working with rectangles is that you really understand the math behind the quilt blocks. And a lot of us say, oh, I'm no good at math. Geometry was a long time ago in high school, but it's really interesting when you start playing with the different size, like the 6x9 rectangles that we're using in the Little Bit Different Block of the Month. The first mathematical principle that we review when we're working with rectangles is basic multiplication. When we have cut down our blocks to 6 inches by 9 inches, you have to figure out where those multiples are. How many blocks are you going to use to fit into the certain size quilt that you want to use? So that's pretty easy to lay out and do those multiplication facts. And if you've got a kid at home that needs a refresher, just quiz them on a few of those facts. 6 times 7, what's 8 times 9, and you'll get some quilt sizes down pretty fast. The other mathematical principle that really comes out strong when working with these rectangular blocks is the idea of proportions. When we have a square block, everything gets divided up really easily and really nicely. Now, the dimensions of 6x9 are easily divisible as well. You can divide both of them by 3, so that works for a lot of our quilt blocks that are a 3x3 layout. However, when you cut that 6x9 rectangle into its 9 smaller parts, you end up with 2x3 rectangles. These are not square, so it makes those triangle construction a little more challenging, but that's good because we're up for the challenge and we like to tackle things and learn new things. And that's one of the best parts of participating in a Block of the Month program, is that you do learn those new techniques, and we can always put new methods in our quilting toolbox. The third benefit to working with stretched quilt blocks is that spark of creativity. Just having a design parameter of 6x9 rectangles opened up so many possibilities. You would be amazed that the normal logical way of thinking is if you put boundaries, if you put constraints on something, that's a limiting factor. But in fact, it makes you want to jump out of that box and say, what's gonna happen next? So when I sat down with that one design principle of 6x9 quilt blocks, my mind literally exploded with all of the possibilities. What would happen if? What's that quilt block going to look like if you change the proportions? And I had a dozen quilt blocks in just a few minutes, and from there my mind just was going crazy with the possibilities of different layouts and, maybe if I tried this and what if we threw that unit in there. So I really encourage you to take on the challenge and stimulate your brain and your creativity with some of these different ideas. The different idea of working with a rectangle as your quilt block instead of the traditional square. You will be amazed at the creativity you find when you explore something that's just a little bit different. The April block is the stretched star, and you can find all the instructions for this block on my website, truebluequilts.com. I'll put a link in the video description below, and I would love to hear your thoughts on the creative aspect of having specific criteria, like that design prompt that you may think is limiting. Have you ever had that experience of being given design parameters and then really finding a lot of creativity in that design journey? Leave a comment below and let me know your experience with design, whether it's quilt design or something else. I'd love to hear from you. When you are ready to explore the Little Bit Different Block of the Month program, I encourage you to watch this video next as I describe the blocks that we used during the first quarter of 2023. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.